All right, let's start with Baltimore hosting the Chiefs, the AFC Championship, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific, with the Ravens now 4-point consensus favorites.
Yeah, it was interesting. I thought we were probably going to get stuck at 3.5, and the 4s coming up, and the support for the Ravens is interesting to me. So let's go like full season statistics here, and we always do the whole thing of you can only play who you play. And I'm not discrediting the Ravens defense whatsoever, but there are a lot of people who go, I mean, look at this defense over the course of the whole season. I agree. However, okay, you got C.J. Stroud's first start, right? Then they lost to Gardner Minshew in week 3. You got Dorian Thompson-Robinson in week 4. Kenny Pickett, who eventually ends up losing his job to Mason Rudolph in week 5. Tannehill in week 6, who got hurt in the game, and you get Malik Willis. You got the Josh Dobbs version of Arizona Cardinals in week 8. Okay, they blew a 14-point lead to what ended up being an injured Deshaun Watson, who didn't play a game the rest of the season against the Browns. Then they had Joe Burrow in the game in which he got hurt, and they got Jake Browning.
This is pretty incredible.
Right?
I don't know if I knew all of this.
Yes. So I mean, again, the season-long defensive. This Ravens defense is great. It is a very, very, very good defense. But
no, you just said they suck. Everybody heard it.
No, if you just blindly look at the numbers,
don't backtrack now.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you blindly look at the numbers, and you just be like, "Oh my God, look at this defense and how awesome they were over the course of the year." It's like, well, yes, and they were definitely good because it's still NFL players they're playing against.
That is pretty stunning.
Those names. There was a fortunate stretch, literally all the way through week 11, right, and then. Yes, they played some good ones down the stretch for sure. Stafford, Purdy, Tua. They got a banged-up version of Trevor Lawrence down the stretch as well. So, like, it's a very, very good team, and obviously the advanced stats will still show that it's a very good defense. But taking context, the stuff that doesn't, if you look at points per game allowed or yards per game allowed or any of those things that don't take opponent into factor, right, like that don't take in who you actually played and at what point in the season, those can be a little misleading. I just wanted to paint that picture for people out there who just go, man, they only gave up X amount of points this year, and they only gave up this amount of yards this year. Like, okay, you got Dorian Thompson-Robinson. You got Malik Willis along the way. I mean, there were some soft spots.
It's worth saying.
Yeah,
for sure.
There were some soft spots along the way.
I had Cleve TA on the Megapod, the Beating the Book Megapod with Todd Wishnev and Will Hill. One of the great Twitter follows there is, and I'll bring him up more than once on this show, largely because he corroborated my Monday feelings on both games, so I'm like thrilled to back it up with what he's saying. And on this game, I don't have a play. And I am sort of the mind that, again, acknowledging what you said, Baltimore, listen, that Patrick Mahomes is the factor that muddies this, right? Like if there was no such thing as this, obviously it wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. But I'm just saying, if he was in any way not the Michael Jordan of this sport, I'd fire on the Ravens. But he is so good, right, that it gives you pause. And one of Cleve's big things in giving him pause on this game too is that, one of the big strengths of Baltimore's defense, Mike Macdonald's defense, is that he is probably going to be able to mitigate Travis Kelce with Kyle Hamilton. And conversely with Steve Spagnuolo, the one sort of, the kryptonite for Lamar Jackson is that from an EPA standpoint, he's one of the worst quarterbacks when you just throw the kitchen sink at him, when they're in cover 0. And so I think that he was bringing up both of those things from both defensive coordinator standpoint, and that so there's enough there, the doubt on both ends, right? Mitigating Kelce, being able to scheme against Lamar in that way, that it just took him off, and just our guessing lines, Malcolm Gladwell blink instinct was to just stay away from this as well, and so. What did you end up with here?
I eventually ended up playing the 4. I wasn't going to, and then when it moved to 4. To me, we're looking at a deal. You just brought up the factor basically for the bet for me, which is the Patrick Mahomes. I'm getting 4 points with the greatest quarterback of all time situation, in which I'm looking and saying, okay, let's say everything is kind of going right for the Ravens in this game, and they find themselves with a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, which I'm sure they would love. Well, I mean. A garbage touchdown, and I'm covering. Like, I'm still covering, right? Like, with Patrick Mahomes, who has time and time and time again, even with the ridiculous lack of resources, been able to find a way to drive the ball down the field against all odds, which please just pay T. Higgins in the offseason. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Like, just give all the money to T. Higgins and get him a real receiver again, and like, let's see what this guy can do. But that was kind of the definitive factor for me, where I'm looking like, is a double-digit lead is still in cover territory for me with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. And one of the deals, it's going to be a great chess match, right? So both of these teams, some of the highest man defensive percentages in the NFL. And so we know what happens whenever you run a bunch of man defense. It gives these quarterbacks that are prone to taking off an opportunity to take off, because you're turning your back to them, and then they see that, and then they take off running. So will either one of these guys alter how they play defense, in this game? Will we see more zone from the Chiefs? Will we see more zone from the Ravens? I know people are going like, why the Ravens? Patrick Mahomes is sneaky good at running the football. It's like he's the most opportunistic. So it's not like the God-given talent like Lamar has or whatever, and Josh Allen and stuff, but he's like one of the most opportunistic quarterback rushers we've ever seen. He will look.
It's that 3rd and 8. The pocket collapses. He takes one step forward, and it's like, oh, there's nobody in front of me. Let me go pick up a first down.
Cleve did take the over on Patrick Mahomes rushing yards, by the way.
I mean, Felica mentioned it last segment. Yeah. I think, and you're kind of hitting it right here, Matt. I think the over on both the guys could be a good play.
Well, you look at Mahomes, and like you just mentioned, there's no one who is more situationally aware than that dude, especially from a rushing perspective. Like, we scream and yell at the television all the time, like, how do you cut your route off a yard before the sticks, and like, how do you whatever? And that is not Patrick Mahomes. Like, if it is 3rd and 7, he knows exactly how to get 7.5 yards, and he will find the 7.5 yards. And so I do think, one, I like the Mahomes rushing prop as well, and then I also look at the Lamar side of things, and you're going to have a ton of design runs for him. This is just the way that this team works. There was one team in the 2023 version of the NFL that ran the ball more than they passed it. One NFL team, and it was the Ravens, right? And so it's going to be, that's what they do. They run the ball. They're going to continue to run the ball. I think that Lamar ends up running it a ton, and maybe from a scramble standpoint, even more than that.
So you did take the Chiefs with the points in the end?
Yeah, I did.
You did.
At 4.
Okay, just to clarify.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.